Yeah, I'm going to do a video intro, Mark.
Sorry?
I'm going to do a video intro.
Are you?
Hello.
Hello!
As you can see, Mark's joined us. We're supposed to be building organs, but because it's a nice sunny day, we thought we'd take a break from that and get filthy dirty doing some blasting work. We're taking out the remains of the headlights from the wings. The headlights came out without much fuss, but the indicators here are more troublesome.
Yeah, they're being a pain. No, that's not happening. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Here we go.
There we go. The main job today will be blasting the wings, so I'm going to blast the wings completely inside and out. We'll also blast the bonnet, but only a bit. Areas of obvious corrosion. And what that'll do is just get rid of all the properly corroded metal and give me, well, I'll know how bad it really is then. My plan is to do all the work on the bonnet and then blast it completely and paint it.
It's all tenor lady adverts in kind of weird. They've got to be dodgy, but they're like these egg-shaped body massagers that everyone's buying. And then one of us, but we're not sure who, is going to dump it on the. Well, you asked me if I remembered it. With just a yes, it's surprise.
You've got half an organ.
Right then, time to prime. I'm going to give it a quick rub down and go over it with a tack cloth, and then my plan is to brush paint the fiddly bits, spray paint the larger areas. I'm going to be using this stuff, track tool paint. Never used it before, but it's designed to be brushed and sprayed. So to spray it, you thin it with xylene, and to brush it, you thin it with white spirit. Like I say, never used it before. This is not sponsored or anything, paid full whack for this. And it was quite cheap actually, but we'll see if it's good stuff. So, we've had an hour or two in the hot sun, the primer's good and dry, it's top coat time. Now for the top coat, I've got a slow drying coach enamel. And the idea of that is that it's, even if I'm brushing it, because it's slow drying, it'll have time to flatten out and lose most of the brush marks. The downside, of course, is that gives it much more chance to pick up dust and insects and everything else that's floating about. There's always a trade-off. So I'm going to follow exactly the same procedure as with the primer. I'm going to hand paint the tricky bits and then spray it. Not too bad. Ugh. Oh, it's hot. Right, I'm going to go have a drink before I'm just going to go have a drink. I'll leave that overnight now. Probably going to take a second coat on it, but we'll decide that in the morning. Oh, Struth. That'll do for now. It's the following day. It's been about 16 hours since I painted this, and it's almost good enough as it is. But it will benefit from a second coat, so I will do that. I've been around with some 400 grit and just taken off some of the little nibs, which is probably just bits of dust floating around that got caught in the wet paint. Kind of inevitable when you're painting outside. This part here, I probably won't spray again. That's fine as it is. I'm going to do the bits you'll actually see. So I didn't spend much time rubbing it down, just hit these high spots off. I'll go over it with a tack cloth and we'll crack on. Here we are the next morning, and the second coat of paint was definitely a good idea. There's so much more depth of finish there now. It's still just two Land Rover roofs cut and stitched together, but it is decently painted now. Yeah, I'm happy with that. It's the kind of finish you'd be horrified to see on a car, but for an old lorry, I think that's looking good. Cool. Right, we can put the roof back on now. So now the wing's blasted, you can really see all the dodgy areas very clearly, and it's exactly where I expected it to be. So where the water's pooled or where we've got an overlap of metal. So I'm going to cut out all these bits, but before doing any actual welding, we'll get it over to the polytunnel and give it a coat of zinc primer just to stop, well, to help stop flash rusting. So how do you think the bonnet looks after blasting? It's bad, like a Tetley tea bag. 2,000 perforations. Of course it's worse at the front. Here we go from perforations to missing. I'm going to start here though, just because, well, this is a compound curve. It goes this way and of course that way. That's the simplest shape. So I'll start with this section, get some practice in, and then it's just as bad on the other side. We'll do that and then move on to that. I measured the metal on the wings as being roughly 1.5 mil. 1.3. Yeah, 1.4 again. So yes, we're looking at 1.6 to 1.4, so 1.5 mil. It is nice and thick. I've got a sheet of 1.5 mil here. It is nice, it's so thick, it'll make it quite a bit easier to work with. Not easy. I still don't like welding sheet steel, but easier. And then I'm going to attempt to weld on this seam. I think I can get away with that. And then up there, and then down. On the limit of what this can manage. I'll have to make a bender for the fly press. Well, it's not too bad. It's not a very sharp crease, but that's actually fine for what we're doing here. Good. So I'll get both of these cleaned up now and we can weld them on. That's it, tacked on, ready to roll. So what we're looking at is a joddle in the metal here, and that fades away anyway before it gets to the louvers. So what I'm going to do, instead of trying to replicate that, I'm just going to fudge it. I'm going to stick this dolly underneath and then attack it with this on top. There we go. Instead of trying to go all the way round, I'm going to go from about here to here and this high. And cut it on that ridge there. And it's not curving in too many directions at once. Next thing to do is to make it curve. Despite the fact, just put a right angle in there, which obviously stiffens it loads. And there's a couple of ways of doing that. What I could do is make a load of cuts in here and then just bend this round and then weld them up again. What I'm actually going to do is use a shrinker. And what a shrinker is, it will pinch the metal. So I can gradually work my way along, and as it pinches this metal, shrinks it, it will pull a curve into there. This blue contraption is a shrinker. It's operated like that, and it just consists of two sets of jaws that as you pull the lever, they just do that. Very slightly, very subtly, but you can work a curve into something. You can spend a lot of money on a shrinker, but as someone who hardly ever does sheet metal work, I didn't. And I got this thing, which is one of the most horrible tools I've ever bought. From where you are at the moment, it probably looks like it's cast iron, which would be the ideal thing to make a shrinker out of, because you don't want it to flex. So like I said, a shrinker, like many workshop tools, you don't want it to flex. You want all the force that you're putting into it to go into the workpiece, not into moving the tool around. When I saw this one was flexing, I had a closer look, and as it flexed, it started to crack. And it turned out what was cracking was all this filler. So this is just plate steel that's had loads of filler plugged into it to make it look like it's cast. So I added these bits to brace it, and I did a lot of fiddling about dressing up the little anvils in here, and it works now. Not very well, but it works. So considering I hardly ever need one, for my needs this shrinker will do, but I'm certainly not recommending it. What I may have to do is to lessen this lip. See, on this one, on the original, they actually cut out bits of it. So turning this into this is going to take a while. Let's go and see what Mark's up to. He should be busy painting the wings. The roof is painted, the cab is painted, the wings are on their way. It's going to be a while before I can actually get those done enough to put back on the truck. We're due rain in a couple of days, so I'm going to cover this up somewhere.
We tried putting it in the carport.
We can try.
Have you done it before?
No.
Okay.
We'll try that, and we'll see you next time. Cheers for now.
Bye.
Yeah?
We're in.
We're in.